Hello. The Gina Davis Institute on Gender in Media did a study across all the popular films in 11 countries around the world. And what that study found is that only 31% of those films had women with speaking roles, and only 23% of those films had a female protagonist. So if we go by what Hollywood is showing us, then there are no female heroes in this world. Or they're so few and far between that they're barely worth mentioning. Their stories aren't worth telling. I wanted to challenge that notion, because could this be true? Is this possible? I wanted to do something about it, so I teamed up with a group of all-female filmmakers, and we set off across America to take a road trip in pursuit of these female heroes. We were making a documentary. On September 3rd, 2013, the five of us packed into a minivan with full hearts and lots of camera gear, and we set off on a 7,000-mile road trip from Los Angeles all the way to New York. We drove through 22 states within 1 month. We were determined to find these female heroes for ourselves. The Empowerment Project was born. The first interview I'd like to share with you was on the Californian coast. We met pilot Sandra Clifford in San Francisco. When we walked into the airplane hangar, Sandra's hair was blowing wildly in the wind, and she looked right at home. She was warm and inviting, yet strong and confident. We strapped into a tiny Cessna plane, and she took us on a flight over the Golden Gate Bridge. She turned back to us and said, "I hope this changes your life the way it did mine." When Sandra was growing up, she was 18 years old. Her father gave her a 1-hour birthday gift, which was a flying lesson, and she flew over the Golden Gate Bridge, which changed her life. From that moment on, she knew she wanted to be an aviator. She studied hard in school, she graduated at the top of her class, and when it came time to apply for jobs, she sat down with the head of a major airline who told her, "Sandra, off the record, we don't hire women." I wonder, how many people, men or women, would have stopped their dream right there in its tracks when they met that kind of resistance? Within a few years, Sandra met passionate people who valued her skill set, and she became a corporate airline pilot while also mentoring many up-and-coming pilots along the way. In 1998, Sandra co-founded Women in Aviation, which helps provide scholarships to women that are working towards becoming aviators. And to date, Sandra has logged over 20 years as a pilot. True passion does not recognize resistance. In Denver, Colorado, we had the pleasure of interviewing chef and restaurant owner Mary Nguyen. When we walked into her space, we were setting up our camera gear, and she entered the room. She shook my hand, and I got it. There wasn't just warmth there. By the time Mary was 25, she had it all. She had the corner office, she was wearing 3-piece suits every day, she was working as an investment banker, but she didn't feel fulfilled. Despite her parents' disapproval, she quit her job to start pursuing her dream of one day opening her own restaurant. She started her own catering company and began working at a sushi restaurant where she was the only woman employed there. One day, her boss came up to her and said, "Mary, some of the staff think that you let your period affect you too much. You can be harsh at times." Mary, having heard this in some form before, knew what that code meant. This wasn't about her period at all. So she looked him right in the eye and she said, "Here's the way I see it. If someone's going to be doing a bad job, I'm going to call them out on it and let them know that they're doing a bad job. And I think that you and everyone else are taking this completely out of context because I'm a woman." Not long after, Mary left that job and opened her own restaurant. Today, Mary has 2 successful and delicious restaurants in the Denver area, and she never went to culinary school. Who said feminine can't be fierce? This is a photo of the first woman to become a 4-star admiral in the United States Navy. We had the pleasure, the honor of meeting Michelle Howard in Arlington, Virginia. When she entered the room, we all fell silent. She was this 5-foot-tall lioness that came in to greet us. And although our journey had been light and uplifting and inspiring up to this point, walking through the Arlington National Cemetery with Admiral Michelle Howard was a profound and moving experience. When Michelle was growing up, she dreamed of joining the Navy, but women were not yet allowed to serve. When she turned 18, it just so happened to coincide with when that law changed, so she signed up. She attended the U.S. Service Academy and soon after was deployed. She spoke about how men were not exactly ready to serve alongside women at that time and all the difficulties that presented. But over time, she worked her way up to commanding a naval ship. The deepness of that responsibility stayed with her every day while she was in command. And what she told me that I'll remember for the rest of my life is that when you're in a minority group, and that can mean there's not a lot of you in the occupation, she said, you don't have the luxury of being average. There is no such thing as a mediocre hero. Now, these are just 3 of the interviews that we conducted during our road trip. There was the first female brewmaster in Portland. There was a congresswoman in DC, an architect in Chicago, an athlete, a ballerina, you name it, we covered it. Within 1 month, we found 17 extraordinary female heroes. So I'm not sure where Hollywood is looking exactly, but we found them pretty fast. And with each interview, we felt uplifted, we felt inspired, we felt validated, and most importantly, we felt less alone. And we started to think, maybe there could be an audience out there that wanted to feel this way too. I'll never forget that moment. She was so nervous, and everything about her body language told me that she doesn't normally do this. She was waiting to speak to me after a screening of the Empowerment Project on a fall day in Seattle, and in more ways than one, it was finally her turn. She took a small step forward and said, I just want to say thank you. I didn't know that women could be astronauts. After watching your movie, I'm going to be an astronaut. That's when I knew that the power of cinema is real. And she is one of thousands of young men and women who have seen this film and taken part in this conversation around the country and around the world. Given the unique nature in which we made this documentary, we didn't want to just throw it up online and try to rack up views or clicks. That's not what this is about. This film was meant to start a conversation. So we teamed up with an innovative distributor called IndieFlix, and with their help, we show the Empowerment Project in schools, groups, organizations, and corporations. The film is a jumping-off point for a larger conversation about gender equality and empowerment and not being afraid to fail. Since finishing the Empowerment Project in April 2014, we have screened this film over 300 times around the country and around the world to audiences as intimate as 5 and as grand as 16,000 people. We have been honored with awards and accolades. We have been featured in prominent publications like Forbes and the Huffington Post and on Good Morning America. We have teamed up with incredible brands like Nordstrom and American Girl to do 3 national tours with this film. It's not just a movie, it's a movement. I recently got an email saying that the film was going to be screening in Rwanda. A group of high school girls walked several miles down a dirt pathway to get to school and watch their first ever documentary, and certainly see role models they had never fathomed before. This is the power of cinema. This film was empowered by women to get it off the ground, and now it's empowering women all over the world. This project has exceeded all of my wildest expectations of what it could be. I have learned to be bold with my ideas and my dreams. This is a photo of me at age 3. I'm holding a light meter. My father is a TV producer and filmmaker as well. The apple doesn't, you know the rest. But what I recognize now is that neither of my parents ever told me I couldn't be a filmmaker because I'm a girl. My gender was never a determining factor to my success. They allowed me to be the hero of my own story, even if Hollywood wasn't showing me that same fate. And for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you.